All you have to do is to press a secret button and the background is removed. Pretty fantastic, isn't it? No matter what the situation is, in this case the background is green. We need to take advantage of it and tell Photoshop just remove the greens. So for it, we press another secret button and now tell Photoshop, alright, remove the greens. This is the color I want to remove. Hit OK. And it goes away. And here's the best part. The greens are gone. So it creates a hue saturation adjustment layer which takes that away. So here's the before. You see the greens around the edge? And here's the after. That is brilliantly gone. And if you're into e-commerce, let us say you have to remove the backgrounds of a bunch of images. You don't even have to open Photoshop, just drag it and drop it into a secret program and it will automatically export your images with all of the backgrounds removed. So how is all of this happening? What are the shortcuts to remove backgrounds in various situations in Photoshop? Let us find out in this video. Also, I have gifts for you that you're going to love, hopefully. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now you might say, Unmesh, there are lots of programs, platforms and websites that remove background, right? However, if you're a professional, you need something that is not only accurate, but also flexible. And this flexibility comes with Photoshop. Whether you want to go in and modify the mask if need be, or you need dozens of techniques and tools to match the subject with the background if that's your style, that kind of versatility comes with Photoshop. The easiest shortcut to remove the background that surprisingly a lot of people don't know is simply going to the properties. Right here, if you cannot see the properties, go to Window and make sure properties is checked. And right here, you will see a button called Remove Background, but you don't see it unless the layer is unlocked. So make sure you select the layer, click on the lock to unlock it, and then you see this button called Remove Background. But the only drawback of this method is that it doesn't work with locked layers. It should work, right? So how do we make it work? Simply create an action. Just start recording an action and then select any of these three tools right here, Object Selection, Quick Selection or Magic Wand. And if you do that, at the top you will see Select Subject. You click on that. Once the selection is active, click on the mask button right there. It does the selection, masking in other words, for you. I've already done the heavy lifting for you, and that, my friend, is a gift for you. Just open up your actions right here. If you cannot see it, go to Window and make sure Actions is checked, and you can download this action called Pix Background Removal. And inside of that, let's focus on regular, and this is the default action that we just learned about. All you have to do is to select that and play it, and it will do the job for you. There you go. Now, if you want to assign a shortcut to it that we did in the intro of this lesson, I already did for this one. If you want to change it, double click on it. And right here, you can apply a function key, for example, F3, F4, with Shift and with or without Control. It's up to you. And that's how you create a shortcut. So if you have a series of images that you're working on, like e-commerce products, like this shirt, and you want to save it as a transparent PNG for your website, just press the shortcut and it will do it for you and then export it. We'll also learn how to batch do it later in the lesson. In case you have missed it, you can download all of these actions absolutely for free by checking the links in the description. But we need to learn how to use these actions and also how these actions were built in case Photoshop updates stuff and you need to create that action yourself. We need to make you independent and not dependent on these actions. Now, before we get into the meat of the lesson or the tofu of the lesson, in case you're vegetarian, we need to understand a few concepts. Otherwise, it will all go over our heads. Now, different situations ask for different background removal methods. You know why? Because we need to take advantage of that situation, of course, in a positive way. In this case, we can click on Select Subject. It does a pretty good selection of the subject, and then we can create a mask. However, have a look. It removed a little bit of the ear. It also kept a little blue right here. It is not very accurate. It is much easier to tell Photoshop to remove the blues from here and our lives as well. So all we do is to go to Select, Color Range right here, tell Photoshop, all right, this is the color we want to remove. And if you want to invert the selection by pressing Ctrl-Shift-I, Command-Shift-I, click on the mask button. Have a look, the ear is okay. There's a little bit of blue around the edges. We're going to get to it later, but for right now, this is much more accurate than the previous selection. So the idea is to make the best of every situation and ask yourself, this is an important one, what separates the subject and the background? In this case, it was color. So here's another example. What do you think separates the subject and the background? The background is very, very bright, almost white, and the subject has dark hair. So we can say that high contrast separates it. And there's a technique for it. If you just click on Select Subject and then mask it out, there's going to be an issue. Let's do that and let us create a simple gray background, put it under the subject. Have a look around the edges. It creates all of these halos. Similarly, Here's another one. There's nothing special that separates the subject and the background. It is not color, it is also not high contrast, and is very comparable to that of the background. So in this case, you would use select and mask. Now let's examine each method and create shortcuts for all of them. So what do you do when you have a regular image and there's nothing that separates the subject and the background? In that case, you use select subject along with select and mask. Now the first way is simply selecting any of these three tools, clicking on select subject right here, and then clicking on the mask button. And it's perfect for objects with a hard edge. But in this case, it creates a few issues. Let us create a solid white background and notice the edges right here. It looks okay right here, but have a look right here. It is slightly out of focus. Still, the edges are very, very sharp. Also, it doesn't get the beard right. Now we can go and manually refine edge those areas, but if we want to automate it, we have to do something else. So let us select the mask. Let's go to select and mask by clicking on this button at the top. Make sure any of the selection tools are selected for you to see that button. And all you do, have a look at it. Just turn on smart radius right here and increase the radius to about 8 or 10%. That should be fine. And have a look at it. Hit OK for now and compare the before and after. So here's the before. Have a look, the edges are hard. Here's the after, much better. Even here, here's the before. And here's the after. The fibers show up fantastically. Now, some areas it doesn't get as good as it was before, but for the most part, it does a better job. Even if you have a look at the beard. So here's the before, not much. Here's the after. That's a significant improvement. So all you have to do is to just automate the exact process that we did. And as I told you, I already did the heavy lifting for you. So just select that layer. Let's go to the action and pick the second one. So in the regular section, because we're working with regular images where there's no differentiating factor like high contrast or color, the default one was default, just clicking on select subject and masking it out. The smart radius is the default with the smart radius that we just did. Just play it and it will do everything for you. And it's done. Have a look, softer edge right there. Now you might ask, Unmesh, what is the third one right here? That also has a purpose. Let us take a look at this example. Even if we play the smart radius one, it would not be enough. There's going to be areas with hard edges like this one. So let's create a white background so that we can see it better. Have a look at it. There are areas with very hard edges. So how do we fix that? We go back to select and mask. Let's click on select and mask. And there's a brand new button in the later versions of Photoshop. Another advantage of not using the Captain Jack Sparrow versions of Photoshop, and that is refine hair. Just click on it. And there you go. Have a look. Did you take a look around the edges? Now, it is not 100% perfect, but here's the before. Once you click on refine hair, here's the after. It is much, much better. So this is just what we automated. So let me go back to how it was. Let us play this action. Smart radius plus refine hair. And it will do the exact same thing. It also increases the smart radius a little bit. And there you go. It is fantastic. Now, I told you it is not perfect. It's not going to remove the halos. That's something you have to do it yourself. But it gives you a fantastic, fantastic starting point. Now, there's going to be some images where even that will not work properly. For example, take a look at this one. Even if you play the smart radius plus refine hair, it doesn't do a pretty good job. Let us create a black background. Have a look, it's actually pretty good, but I would rather want to manually move my brush around once as well. So for it, we have created a custom action. Let us go back to how it was and let's play the custom action. Regular custom, play it. It will bring you to the select and mask dialog box. It will do the basic masking and all you have to do is to select the refine edge brush tool and just paint around the edges. There you go. And this is if you want to do it manually. And that is why you have the custom action and hit OK. And there you go. Now this of course creates a much better result than automating. Have a look at it. It's just fantastic. Now there's going to be scenarios like this one where you will have a little bit of the halos. And one of the easiest ways to let it go is just decontaminating colors. Now you might ask what that is, Unmesh. Well, just go to select and mask and inside of that, just check decontaminate colors and it extends the image a little bit, keeps the mask the same, and since it expands the image, it changes the image. You want to make sure the output is to a new layer with a layer mask. Hit OK. Have a look at it. If I turn off the mask, it extended the subject and kept the mask the same, and that is how it does it. So if you want a shortcut for just decontaminate colors, you can create it. Let me do it for you. Let's record an action right now inside of regular. So click on the plus right here, and this is for decontaminate colors. If you want to make sure the set is all right, hit record. Click on select and mask. We want to check decontaminate colors, new layer with a layer mask, hit OK, stop the recording, and that will do it. So whenever you have a mask with some halos, just play this action, and there you go. It's gone. Now it's at the bottom. Let's arrange the order. It should be inside of regular. Now let's talk about situation where the subject human product is separated by color. Now we would think all we have to do is to just use select color range and it would do the job. But when you're automating stuff, you want to be faster and you don't want to nudge the values for every single image. And even then, there's going to be some areas that are going to be left out. So how do we fix that? So in this case, let's first create a black background so that we can see our mask like that. Select the subject layer, go to select, and then color range. Now inside of selection preview, make sure it is none so that you can see the entire image. With the eyedropper selected, click on the color that you want to remove. Now you can adjust the fuzziness for different images, but we want to create an action so that either we have to click just once or not click at all. So fuzziness in my experience at about 90 is fine for most images. Now for your set of images, you can change it if you create an action. And even though masking right here looks proper, it isn't. Wait for it. So hit OK for now. And if you just create a negative mask by holding the Alt key or the Option key and click on the mask button, it looks okay. There's green around the edge. We can remove it, but still there are areas that are left out. Have a look around the corner. If you take a look at the mask, have a look. This area is left out. That area is left out. So how do we fix all that? So after we apply color range, there's a special feature we need to use. So let's do it again. Select color range. We already did that. Hit OK. Now it's not perfect. To make it perfect, we need to select similar areas, similar to the areas that you've already selected. So for it, we need to go to select and click on similar right here. That is the secret code to it. Right now, if you create a mask, see, that area is no longer there. This area that was showing up, it is no longer there. Now this mask is still not perfect. It can have a lot of harsh edges like this one. So how do we make it softer? We go to select and mask, click on select and mask, and we did it before, and that secret sauce is smart radius. At about 8 or 9 or 10 is fine. So round figure, I'm going to keep it 10 for now. Hit OK. That, my friend, is a major improvement. So here's the before, harsh edges, right? This is just not looking right. Here's the after, so much more improved. Now again, there's green around the edge. How do we fix that again? We create a hue saturation adjustment layer. We target the greens. By the way, we want to limit the hue saturation just to the subject layer. How do we make that happen? By creating a clipping mask. So click on this button so that no matter what you do, even if you lighten it and darken it, make it white, black, it only affects the subject layer. Let's reset it. Let's go to greens by clicking on the drop down right here, choosing greens. Take the hue and the saturation all the way to the right hand side and then adjust the range so that all of these greens are selected. So right here, this is a good place. So make the range narrower, move it around. So this is the area of the greens, so you can extend it to your liking. So that is fine. We don't want to extend it too much so that it gets to the hair as well. This is fine. Let's extend it to the right, all the way to the right, and this is fine. Now you can either decrease the saturation. So let's zoom in this particular area. You can decrease the saturation like this. That kind of fixes that. You can also change the hue a little bit. Let's look at these areas as well. So here's the before. You see the green? And here's the after. The green is gone. So you can adjust the settings to your liking, see what works for you. And that's what we can use to create the action. So in the action, let's go back to how it was. Let's go to our actions. And there are two actions right here. Remove color default, and there's one with refine hair. All of what we did was the default one. So let's play it. And you have to pick the color, hit OK. And it does everything for you. It also creates the hue saturation layer for you. And again, it doesn't know what color you have picked. So you have to do the hue saturation yourself. Now you can of course automate it if you know what kind of color will be in the background. We'll get to it later. We'll get to a fully automatic version later. But for right now, this is the action. Now the second action is with refine hair. All it does is that it goes to select and mask. Let's create a black background so that you can see what's happening. And if we click on refine hair, it does a better job of refining the hair mask. So here's the before. See, it's not as good. Here's the after. There you go. Hit OK. It's better. Now, of course, we have to remove the greens by using hue saturation. So how do you fully automate the color actions? Let us say you're taking photos with the same color background. You know what the background is like in all of the images, and you don't want to pick the colors, remove the greens from the edges. You want it all automatic, given that you know what the color is going to be. So here's how you do it. Let's start recording an action by clicking on the plus button right here. Shoot one pix, okay? And we'll name it green. Let's start record. The first thing you do is to go to select, color range, and you pick this color because you know that's what the color is going to be. Fuzziness 90 is fine. That is recorded. The next step is select similar so that all of those similar areas are selected. Hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on the mask button. This is done. Now the edges are very, very harsh. So we go to select and mask and we set the edge detection to about 10, smart radius turned on. And if you want to refine hair in all of these images, you can turn it on as well. For right now, I'm going to keep it turned off. You can create a different action with that turned on. Hit OK. And now to remove the greens, create a hue saturation adjustment layer on top. Click on this button to make sure you limit it to the subject. Select greens from the drop-down. Take the hue and the saturation all the way to the right-hand side and do the exact same thing as we learned before. Let's go to actions and stop it. Let's test this action by simply clicking on it and playing the action. It should be absolutely automatic, and there you go, it works. So that's how you fully automate this action for your set of images. And now let us talk about images with high contrast. So if you try to make a selection with select subject, of course, and you mask it out, and then you create just a gray background at the back, you'll see all of these halos because there's a high contrast between the subject and the background. So the hair takes up the color of the background and it's bright, so it shows up like this. So how do you fix this? So in this case, the hair is dark and it darkens the background. So what is the blend mode which only darkens? You choose that layer and change the blend mode from normal to multiply. There you go. Now the edges are proper. It is looking fantastic. But there's another issue right now. The image has gotten darker. So if this was a texture or a pattern, it would just show through. See? So how do we fix that? First of all, let's remove it. We would make a copy of this one. This is the multiply layer, right? Let's name it so that we remember it. We need to reveal some areas in normal mode. So let's make a copy of that by pressing Ctrl or Command J and change the blend mode from multiply to normal. And we don't want it around the edges. So how do we remove it from the edges? Simply put that layer in a group by pressing Ctrl or Command G and then click on the mask button. That we are not disturbing this mask. So select the mask, take the brush, black as the foreground color, and take it away from the edges. And it should be fine. And that's how you remove these halos. Similarly, you can do a little bit right here as well. That helps a little. That's all up to you. You can take your time for it. Now if it is the opposite, as in the background is black and the hair of fur is white, then you would use screen, the opposite blend mode, instead of multiply. So I've created an action just for it. So right here for the previous example, you would go to high contrast section and the hair is dark. It's making the background darker. So you will play the multiply blend mode. Select that, play it. It does everything for you automatically. And all you have to do is just paint around the edges. It selects the brush for you. It sets the color to black. Just paint it. And that's all. By the way, you can also do it with the PiXimperfect compositing plugin. Everything about compositing, it makes it very, very simple. And it's also approved by Adobe. So if you open up the PiXimperfect compositing, in the masking section, in the remove halo section, you have the multiply blend mode technique. It does the exact same thing. You have the screen blend mode technique. And for masking, you have the select color range button, you have select subject, all of these buttons and all of these actions also we plan to integrate inside of it. Many of them are already integrated. So definitely consider checking out PiXimperfect compositing and you can easily find it inside of Adobe Marketplace. I'll leave a link in the description. Now, if the opposite is the case, as I told you, we would use the screen blend mode. But there will be a problem with this. Let's play the screen blend mode. This looks okay, but even if we reveal the edges, there's something wrong with that. There's going to be some cases where you would not want the screen or the multiply layer to be masked. So since this is masked, it can create some issues. So let's turn off the mask by holding the shift and clicking on the mask and all of the hair comes back. So if you have a really flat background, you don't need a mask right here. Let's go to the reveal mask and just paint around the edges. And there you go. If you want to double up the power of screen, just select the screen layer, press Ctrl or Command J, and there you go. It's a little more white. I would decrease the opacity, increase it slightly, and that looks just fantastic. I would change the background to something more nicer, like greenish. That looks great. So what about situations like these where you don't need a mask for the screen or the multiply layer? We have created an action for it as well. So if you go to action, There you go, multiply without mask and screen without mask. Let's select the screen one, play it, and there will be no mask for this one. And now you can easily just paint around the edges and you should be fine. You get the point. There you go. Also, there's going to be times where you want to extract the shadows on the background. In those cases as well, you wouldn't need a mask, because if you create a mask by selecting multiply, playing it, it just wouldn't look right and it wouldn't bring the shadows in. Now, of course, you can paint this and fix it, and you can just try to paint here, but it wouldn't bring the shadows because this is masked right here. So let's remove all of that. Let's select multiply without mask, play it, and there you go. Now you can paint these areas. That is great. Also, if you paint these areas, have a look how nicely they are recovering. Now you can change the background color to whatever you like. Let's say red. So let's go for this color, and there you go. That looks gorgeous. Now, what about batch processing? Let's say your boss told you to remove the background of some images, and by some, he or she meant 759. Now, if you're getting paid by the hour, you should do one by one. But if you're not, this is how batch processing works. Side note, if you designed an ad template or a business card and you have thousands of names as a list, you don't want to go ahead and open your design 1,000 times and enter each name every time. It can take a hell lot of time. So you can use Photoshop to automatically insert all of those 1,000 names and create 1,000 design files ready to print or publish on the web if that's an ad banner, and you can easily do that with the help of variables. We already have a video about it if you want to learn how. Let's say you have a series of images with different outfits, and all you have to do is to remove the background. Now you can pick any one of those actions and use it for automation. For simplicity, let's say I'm going to use the default action with Smart Radius. So let's go with the second one. Simply make a copy of that. So just drag it and drop it right there. Or you can also hold the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag right beneath it, and you can arrange it. And that's how you have a copy. Let's name this automation. Let's open up the action, and you just have to add one extra step to it. So I've opened a sample image. Let's play the action first. Smart Radius automation, play it. Now, after it has done the job, select the last step right here, click on the record button, and you want to record the saving process of it. Let's go to File, Save As, and let's choose PNG because we want it with a transparent background. Now, if you want to save it as a JPEG, make sure you have merged the layer. There is nothing transparent right there. It doesn't matter what the name is. Simply click on Save. We just want to record it. Default is fine. Hit OK. Now we need to create a droplet out of this. Let's go to File, Automate, and Create Droplet. Now, of course, you want to create a droplet of the Smart Radius automation. These settings are fine. If you want to learn more about droplets, we already have a video about it. Now choose where you want the export to go. Click on Choose. We're going to create a new folder called Export, and let's select that folder. Click on Select Folder. You just want to make sure you check Override Action Save As Commands so that it uses the save command from the action and saves it right over here, the destination that we have chosen. Now here you choose how you want your new export to be named. So let's set it to how it was. So we're going to choose none for everything. First, I want to add a prefix in the file name like bg remove. Then I want the file name. Let's put a gap right here. Then I want the document name, the original name that was there before removing the background. And after that, of course, we want the extension. So let's go for our extension, which would be PNG or JPEG or whatever format you have chosen. You can also turn on compatibility for these operating systems and hit OK. Now, what did just happen? If we go to this folder, there's a new file called bg remove, and that, my friend, is a droplet. Whatever image you drop here, Photoshop will automatically process it, and you don't even have to open Photoshop. It will automatically open Photoshop for you. So if you just drag and drop this one, it opens Photoshop up, removes the background, and exports it automatically. So right now, if you go back to this folder called export, and there you have your PNG with the background removed. Now, of course, it works with a series of images. So here we have a lot of images. We can also select all and drop it right there, or just drop the folder in here. It opens them one by one and processes all of them absolutely automatically. If you have a look at the folder export, and there you have all of your images, and have a look at the naming bg remove original file name .png. Photoshop is easy if you just understand the concepts. I always recommend never ever memorize the steps. Once you understand the concept, once you understand how things work and why it works that way, you will create your own steps. Once you get a lay of the land of the kingdom of Photoshopia, it will never look intimidating. And by the way, here's a video for all the basics you need to get up and running with Photoshop. Actually, you can go through the entire list of this course like going to this playlist right here or going to learnphotoshopfree.com. I try to regularly add videos to that course. Keep in mind, it's absolutely free. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to pay anything. Just watch and enjoy. Do not forget to download the free actions by checking the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.